All right, welcome to the replay of our Larson Life Group call. If you are catching this on YouTube, I am Jim Larson, Senior Vice President here at Symmetry Financial Group. Man, I've been here about 3 years, direct to Jamie Susie and Corey Neighbors, Sarah and Jared Reinecke, Jacob Pogue and the Marshall Wayland hierarchy. I had a brain fart trying to think of all that. Guys, I love what we're doing here. I love what we're building here. I love that you're tuned in to learn from some agents tonight that I can't wait to introduce you to who are through the learning curve. We talk about that learning curve a lot, and it's real. It caught me off guard. It's one of the biggest areas of improvement I think we have is setting the right expectations for new agents. I came in here expecting to be a lot better at this than I was. And I wish someone had prepared me better for what that learning curve looked like. The best I can tell you is the learning curve is going to be 1,000 dials and running 20 appointments. And until you've done both of those things, you're in the learning curve. I'm also going to tell you that most agents quit, but the ones that quit during the learning curve, quit before they've ever done 1,000 dials or they've ever run 20 appointments. The learning curve is not fun. It's uncomfortable. It's stretching you. You're learning new things. It's hard. You're going to feel like you're grinding your wheels and you're going to feel like you're getting nowhere. You're going to question if it's worth it. I want to be so real about expecting that. But those of you that stick through it and get to the other end of the learning curve, you start making money and having fun. How long you're in the learning curve is up to you. We've got agents on this call got through the learning curve in a month. I got agents on this call. Some of y'all know who I'm talking about. Been here about a year. You're still not through the learning curve. Still haven't run 20 appointments. Still haven't made 1,000 dials. And I'm going to be honest. I know for a fact you're still not having fun. I don't know why. I like having fun way more than not having fun. I like making money a lot more than not making money. So my challenge to those of you that have been here a while and aren't through the learning curve, get through the learning curve. It's way more fun on the other side. And so my goal tonight was to bring on 2 agents who have gotten through the learning curve. So I'm going to go ahead and bring up Julie here. Let's spotlight Julie. And then let's see if I can find Evan. You're going to hang out by yourself here, Julie, for a little bit till I find Evan. Let's add Evan there, and then I'll join you guys up here on Spotlight. All right. So I've got Julie Czesnowski and I've got Evan Brown up here. I'm going to roll their numbers for you guys publicly so you can hear their numbers. They both, and I didn't know this until I started doing research on the 2 of them. So Evan is direct to me. He's been with me since he started. Julie is direct to Michelle Baldwin. And they both actually got their Symmetry emails just about a year ago. November of last year. They got their Symmetry welcome emails. They were both new writers December of last year. So here they are. They're about a year into business now. So I'm going to roll Julie's numbers month by month. So Julie comes in. She writes her first application and her only application in December. One app for $1,835. That was December. January, she writes one app for $537. February, 11 apps for over 12,000. March, 11 apps for over 13,000. April was 8 apps for 7,400. May was 8 apps for 11,000. June was 9 apps for almost 7,000. July was small for you. You must have been on vacation or something. 4 apps, 4,700. August was 8 apps for over 10,000. September was 8 apps for 8,400. October, 10 apps for almost 21,000. This is Julie. Julie is through the learning curve. Julie is writing business like a boss. She was getting married. I'm like, you're on vacation or something. Yeah, not just vacation. She was getting married. That was her down month. All right. She went and she got married. She still wrote business. Wrote an app on her wedding day. All right, Julie, we see you. All right. Evan Brown, my man, came in November of last year. December, he wrote 3 apps for almost 1,200. January followed it with 3 apps for 2,500. February, he was 7 apps for 6,500. March, 3 apps for 4,400. Still in that learning curve. April was 7 apps for 6,000. May, I don't know what you did. Maybe, is that when you moved, but you were 3 apps for 1,900. June was 4 apps for 4,300. July was 10 apps for 11,000. August, 7 apps for 5,900. September was 10 apps for about 21,000. October, you got in your head about your $20,000 month, I think. You got in your head a little bit. 3 apps for 3,800. And so far in November, we're a week and a half in, Evan's at 7 apps for 8,000. All right. These are agents that are through the learning curve. Now, my goal in this is I see very clearly there are phases of the learning curve and phases of this business. And so I'm going to have you guys introduce yourselves, kind of share your story in a little bit. And every question I ask here, by the way, they were not prepped for this at all. I don't like prepping people for calls. I like the real, the authentic. I like the unrehearsed. I see this. You guys have heard me talk about like running bases in this business through that learning curve. Like first base is just picking up the phone. Second base is learning to bypass those first layers of resistance and actually set the appointment. Third base is getting them to show up, like locking down that appointment and getting them to show up. And then home is closing. So what I want to do with you guys, it's going to be one step at a time, unpeeling. I'm going to have you walk us through at first. How'd you get through just picking up the phone and dialing? Then secondly, separate question, how'd you get through actually getting through to set the appointment when we all know everyone doesn't need this, never filled it out, didn't happen, you always get that. How'd you get to that, like setting the appointments? From there, how'd you get through that learning curve in locking that down and getting them to show up? And then lastly, how did you close them? And depending on time, how did you learn field underwriting so you actually started like writing business that was going to stick an issue so you could get paid? This is going to be like our round robin we're going to go through, kind of just running the bases. But first of all, Julie, let's start off with you. What brought you to Symmetry?
Yeah, so I was working in the software industry, and I was pregnant with my first and only child upstairs. And in April of last year, so 2023, I was laid off from my job and had great benefits, salary, all the things. And it was like, whoa, what the hell am I going to do now? So I signed up for the real estate course because my mom's a realtor. And I was like, oh, I've always been interested, and very quickly knew that was not for me. And then I was just scrolling Facebook one day in June, I think, of last year, or June, 2023, and saw a Facebook post. So share this business on Facebook. It was a random post. I didn't know the person, and they shared the business or said, I know an opportunity, and I reached out to them. And that was actually Lindsay Crawford, who's not here at the moment, but she, connected me with Michelle, and I watched the corporate overview and joined some calls, and the rest is history.
Yeah, I mean, to the point, and this is just a little note for all y'all note takers. The woman that actually recruited Julie isn't even here anymore. She quit. So I wonder if she's still in the system, still gets the emails every time you write apps, and wonders if maybe she should come back. I don't know. I haven't talked to her in a while. But all right, so that brought you here, Evan. Same question to you. What brought you to Symmetry?
You. For those of you who don't know, Jim had a coaching business up until pretty recently, and I was a real estate agent before this, and he was the coach for our brokerage. So one day he kind of mentioned opportunity in passing, and I was just like, maybe. And then things started getting really bad financially, and I was just like, all right, dude, tell me more. And been here ever since.
Sid goes cold-blooded poach. Sometimes, Sid, and sometimes. Okay, so I'm going to go back and forth. So Evan, I'm going to start with you. What was it like picking up the phone the first time? You got your first batch of leads. What were you expecting, and what did you encounter when it came to picking up the phone and dialing those first batch of leads?
I expected it to be really easy. Like I was going to call the first person, they'd pick up on the first dial, and I would just be like, yeah, just need your date of birth and blah, blah, blah. And yeah, we'll just set up a time to talk and that's it. Yeah, no. I probably didn't set my first appointment for like a week and a half. And I kept encountering like, hey, can you call me back? Can you call me back? No, I'm not interested, the normal stuff.
Were you
That's
nervous?
yes, 100%.
What do you think you were nervous about? I know I was. I mean, the phone like weighed 1,000,000 pounds. I was overthinking the script, everything. What do you think made you nervous picking up that phone to dial?
Not knowing anything about life insurance.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep. I think that's pretty common.
Picking up the phone was easy for me because I did it as a real estate agent, but it's just not knowing anything. I had no idea what whole life or term or anything like that was. So
So like the fear that they might ask you a question and they would expose your incompetence.
definitely.
Yeah, I get that. Julie, so same question to you. You bought your first batch of leads. You got this little stack here. You're picking up the phone the first time. What did you expect? What did you encounter?
Yeah, so I actually wasn't scared to pick up the phone just because of what I did before. I was like onboarding big tech companies and like people that knew more than I did. So like actually talking and picking up the phone wasn't hard, but not know like Evan said, not knowing anything and just kind of like, just trusting blindly in the system and my mentor and just being like, okay, like just and expecting that the leads maybe were like a little bit more like, ready to set the appointment as I was.
Yeah. It's interesting too. You really came in cold market. You didn't know your mentor. You stumbled on a Facebook post. Whereas Evan and I, we had a coaching relationship. So when you get to that place in business where it's like, hey, you need to trust your mentor that this is going to get easier. For Evan, we had that relationship. So I'm not going to put words in your mouth, Evan, but I don't think it was hard for you to trust me. Versus Julie, you're in a position where you got to trust someone you don't even know. How is that?
Um, it's Michelle. If you know Michelle, she's like the kindest person ever. So very quickly just knew she, I just like, could trust her, but it was also the system that, you hear about in the onboarding and everything, and just every call is everybody's always saying follow the system. And I very quickly saw the success here just from joining calls. So I was like, okay, well, I'm just doing what I'm told. Like, I'm just gonna follow the system the way it is, and my mentor, whatever they say, just do it. So
And you did it, and she told you to buy leads and dial, and you didn't have trouble dialing, but you encountered not quite as warm as you expected these leads to be. And so they're giving you this runaround. They're giving you these any number of excuses. So how did you learn to bypass that first layer of resistance that they're always going to give you? How did you learn to bypass that and actually set that appointment?
me still, sorry.
Oh yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
I'm
So
gonna do that. I'm gonna let you finish and then do a
okay.
new one, and then we'll keep doing that.
So we have the resources in, HQ, all the scripts and stuff like that. But I also plugged into the workroom, which people talk about. And I listened to other agents when they were live dialing. And I was constantly, just tweaking and reaching, just communicating with people in the workroom and listening and copying scripts and like listening to different people and whatever resonated with me. I did a lot of like, just formulating till I found my words and felt confident speaking them.
How long do you think it took you from like the very first time you were dialing to where you felt comfortable, like you could set appointments, not even necessarily close business, but you could get appointments on the books? How long do you feel like that took you?
Probably like 8 weeks or
Okay.
more. Like till I really started to like, feel like, okay, I like think I'm getting the hang of this.
And were you buying leads every week?
every week.
What was your lead budget when you first started?
Oh God. I was on unemployment and I literally was actually I sold my first policy to Warm Market in January was right the same week when my unemployment ran out. So I was using credit cards and just basically trusting the system that it would all work out in the end. I was doing
Like
what I need. I
straight
don't
up
know,
in
like
numbers, like
300 maybe a week,
okay, yeah,
500.
I tell people plan on spending like $250 a week. Were you way off that or kind of right on par with that?
Yeah. And yeah, I honestly don't remember, but yeah, it was somewhere around that average 250 probably to start. And then as I started to get more confident and, schedule more appointments, I started putting more in, but I
Yeah,
definitely put more in the beginning, like in February when I was like, but I also was working more market as well, which helps, cover some of that cost in the beginning.
for sure. I mean, you guys know my story. War market for me, I will say, funded my learning curve. It took me a while to get good at leads, and my warm market kept me profitable while I was getting good at leads. Staying with you, Julie, you say it took you about, was it 8 weeks, you said?
I mean, I sold my first policy to a lead at the 6 week mark, and the next
Okay.
day she canceled. But I'd say
Nice.
like a couple weeks after that, I was like,
You were
I was like discouraged by that, but I didn't let it like, I was like, nope, if I could get them through to the app, like that was just the circumstance. And I learned whatever I learned from it. And then I just kept going.
So when you say you kept going and you say it's 8 weeks, it's not 8 weeks of sitting on your butt letting time pass. You were getting leads and dialing. Did you track your numbers? Like, do you know um about how many dials you were making in a week?
I think I was doing like in the beginning, like 300 a week.
Okay.
It's not as many as I do now, but I work more with digital leads now.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
But you
totally get
still
it.
have to dial, trust me. But it just um yeah, I was doing about 300, I think.
All right. So
On average.
summarizing for you, you were in the workroom, you were constantly listening to other people, you were tweaking things, you were getting leads, you were dialing them. So it was a matter of that, just, I mean, cornerstone of our business, right? Massive action, constant correction.
Mhm.
Evan, I'm pitching the same question to you. What was what helped you get past that first layer of resistance to where you were starting to set appointments?
I somehow built up the confidence to tell people no. In the nicest way I tried to make it possible, but I'm like, no, actually, I can't call you back later. Just calling to verify some information. That's seriously, it was that simple for me. Just
Interesting. So
let people know.
you'd get the hey, I'm busy right now, call me back, and you would just be like, no, but this will only take a couple seconds.
Yeah, in the
Okay.
nicest way possible.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's good. I actually like that one. What resources did you use to help with that part of the learning curve?
Mainly things in HQ and getting on the calls, getting on the training calls whenever
Okay.
I could. Deep dive with sales experts, even the Poe call, your call, and Susie.
Okay. Just
Yeah. I
leveraging the system, the stuff. What was your lead budget when you started?
think it was 350 to 400.
Okay. And do you know your dial numbers?
If I had to guesstimate, I'd say anywhere between 3 and 400.
All
So
right.
again, just like Julie, not as much as I'm making now, but
Yeah, but you were showing up consistently doing it. So then you get to this place where you're telling them no as gently as you can, but you're getting their data and you're setting that appointment. Now, if you were anything like me, you started setting appointments, you started feeling good about yourself. But then you ran into a brand new problem. Freaking A, they're not showing up. So how did you solve this new problem, Evan? You feel like you're making progress. You're finally brave to pick up the phone. You're setting appointments, but now they're not showing. How did you get past that part of the learning curve?
I finally found a script that I committed to, stuck to, and it locks them down really well.
Where did you
So
find the script? Whose script? Where do other people find it? What was it about this script that was so magic?
so you can find it on Larson Life Group. It is Will Van Vleck's script for mortgage protection leads. What is magic about it is it's not pushy at all, and it's very question based. And at the end, with no show specifically, just at the end, be like, hey, just to double check, Christopher, that is one of my last openings for tomorrow. Are you 100% sure that you and your wife can be there? One of my favorite lines.
Are
Yeah.
you really big on having spouses both present at the appointment?
Yes, I will never run a one-legger ever again. Ever.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. Julie, I'm kicking that question over to you. So it's going to be the same question, assuming the same problem, right? You're 8 weeks in, you're setting these appointments now, but they're not showing up, right? So, and I remember, like, for me, I'm not even kidding you, it was a 10% show rate. When I first finally got good setting appointments, I would set 15 appointments, I'd get one or two people there. Like, I straight up stopped believing people were going to show, to the point. Cassidy, can you link the script? Cassidy, go to larsonlifegroup.com/help. And then you're going to click, I need help with the phones. And the script is going to be right in there in a link. So I had like a 10% show. I'm not even kidding you guys. I had two appointments scheduled one evening, and this is straight up like I depended on my production money. I had two appointments scheduled one evening. Friends came over with wine, just surprised us to hang for the evening. I ghosted my own appointments. I didn't even call my own appointments because in my mind, I was so defeated. I'm like, they're not going to show up anyway, so why would I bother? I was that defeated. I had such a bad show rate. So one of the biggest skill sets for me to learn was exactly that, learning how to lock that appointment down so they showed. So Julie, what helped you do that?
Like right at like my so I guess so the first couple of months of my business I was using just my cell phone and like the old fashioned way. So not switchboard, not until March did I use switchboard. So during that period of time where I was like really going through the learning curve, um I would just call them after, like I would bother them like after they didn't show up, and I would leave messages, and then I would also just like focus on just making more appointments. Like I didn't really like dwell too much. Like I followed up with them maybe once or twice, left a message and stuff like that. And then I too, was like, what do I need to do better? And I also used Will's script for a little while there. Um, Probably in February, I started doing that. I
But
don't use his anymore. I
you
did.
would say for you the big thing was getting on switchboard and leveraging the CRM to actually help. Would you say that?
Yeah, I transitioned to that pretty quickly when my husband went back to work because I have a baby. For those of you that don't know, she's 1 and she works with me all day long. And so I had it in my head and I was super nervous when that transition happened. And I was like, oh, I think like maybe transitioning to digital leads will be a good fit for me. Just, and I tended to do pretty well with them when I transition. It's not for everybody. A lot of people still do analog, but I felt like that did help a little bit because on Switchboard, when you book an appointment, it will send, reminders at least, but it doesn't fix the problem. You still have to use the right language, whether you're texting or if you're on the phone. And I did actually use Will's script for probably the spring when Evan and I, when you and I did that role playing period of time for a couple of weeks, we were role playing together. So I think that was
role playing what part of the skill set?
not to change it. Like running the appointment.
Okay.
We may have practiced locking it down. I'm sure we talked about it. But yeah, I think that was in like May after you moved. We did, yeah, for a few weeks we were doing role playing and we were just practicing on each other. Like, one of us would be the client and the agent, and we would try different scripts. And not to change the subject, but I think that was a pivotal moment for both of us.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of that, especially if you can zoom in on one specific area of the skill set that you need help with. Finding a partner to role play is huge. I promise anything you're dealing with, someone else is dealing with the same thing. Right? Someone's dealing with the same thing. So find a partner where it's mutually beneficial for the two of you to get that work in together and get those reps in together. That's huge. All right, so I'm staying with you, Julie. You have people that are now showing up to these appointments, but you got all of a sudden a new problem, right? It always works that way. Like you finally get brave on the phone, but then you're like, oh, I'm not setting appointments. The goal wasn't to pick up the phone and make dials. The goal was to set appointments. Then you finally set appointments, but they're not showing. You're like, no, the goal was not to set appointments. I gotta actually like meet with people. And then you finally like, you're meeting with people, but you're not closing them. And you're like, oh crap, no, the point was actually like to protect families and write applications. So you're meeting with people, and I'm sure you're getting all of I need to think about it. This is too expensive. And so you're meeting with people, but you're not closing policies. How did you learn to overcome that part of the skill set where you started actually walking away from that appointment with policies sold?
Yeah. So this business is definitely peaks and valleys. Like Jordan Hunt said at conference, you get to the top of the peak and you're like, yay, and then there's another valley and then another peak. So I guess I don't know. I plugged into the resources that we have. We didn't have those role-playing videos that we do in HQ now, but we had, different scripts. I was working with Evan to help tweak because I knew I needed help closing now at this point. And every now and then I'd get lucky with like one of those old people that were just like ready to buy. But it's not always the case, and you can't bank on that situation. And so when I basically every time I'm hit with a challenge like that, like, okay, I'm getting this answer a lot and I'm meeting with a lot of people now, but I'm just like not closing them. What do I need to do? And it was obviously a skill set. So I plugged into different training calls, reached out to other agents. Like I'm always like looking for some sort of help with something. We definitely have a lot of help here. I would talk a lot about that with like other agents from like the workroom and stuff. Like, what are you saying when you get into the call and that kind of thing? How do you get them into the app?
Yeah, I love that you prefaced it with, I was getting a lot of. Right? You weren't drawing conclusions from small sample sizes. You were massive action running up against this a lot, which raised the awareness that you needed to get better at the skill set. So many people want to draw conclusions from very small sample sizes. They're gonna make a handful of calls. Nobody wants this. They're gonna set a handful of appointments. Nobody shows up. They're gonna set like a handful of they don't close. And it's like, nah, man, just figure out, deal with big data, lots of numbers, and then you get to really figure out what it is that you need to work on in this. And so the fact that you preface the whole thing with, I would encounter this a lot. Yeah, cool. Now you know very specifically where you're getting stuck in the process, so you can start working on that. Evan, same thing over to you. You got people showing up to these appointments now. but you're not selling policies. How did you get confident that you could go into that appointment and close that sale?
First of all, the type of lead that I was working, because I'm sure, just like a lot of people, seems like experience, I used to jump back and forth from what type of lead I was working. So, my bread and butter, mortgage protection, 100%. I ended up sticking with that. So that boosted my confidence already because I know exactly what I'm selling and I know exactly what I'm offering people. Um, Second thing is I would get two objections mainly. Number one, I need to think about it, which isn't really an objection. And then number two, that would be I need to go talk to whoever, which is exactly why I said no more one-leggers ever. Um, both spouses need to be there. So finding a good script and having Will's script there also helped me a lot. The way he sets up the call at first, and he tells people, we tell people, so in the beginning of our call, the last line of our opening intro is, my goal is to simply help you arrive at a yes or no decision, and I'm good either way. Is that fair enough? And we say that twice in the call total. So that kind of gets people to already know, like, hey, I got to make a decision by the end of the call. So that helped a lot with I need to think about
Yeah,
it.
you're setting that expectation to like get rid of the think about it way ahead of time.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah, that's good. I
Having
like
both
that.
spouses there, no think about it, no, I need to talk to somebody. So
Yeah, that's really, and you want to know, like, I would love to think about it one so much because I've been in this game long enough to know that if I let them go with an I'm gonna think about it, you want to know what they're gonna get off the phone and absolutely not do? Think about it. They're not going to think about it at all. They're going to get off the phone and they're going to go right back to doing exactly what they were doing before they got on the phone. And they're not going to think about it, not once.
yep,
It's never going to
never.
cross their mind. So pressing them for that decision is actually doing them a service because they want to check this off their list too. All right, Julie, how did you Oh, we already talked about how you close people, didn't we? All right. So here's what I want to know from you then. Because now we got another problem. You wrote the application, woo-hoo. You submitted it to Opt. You're on leaderboards. Everyone's cheering for you. It feels so great, except it gets declined and you don't get paid, and that family's not protected. So, yay for leaderboards that don't pay you. How did you get good and develop the skill set of choosing the right policy so you could actually protect families and actually get paid?
Yeah, so I definitely focused in the beginning. I feel like I'm sure there was a video or something floating around, I think a Vimeo that maybe Kelly Bush did on underwriting, and I made sure to get that from my mentor, from Michelle, or wherever I got that from. And I made it a point to get good at underwriting, and I actually really enjoy it. I don't know why. I did a lot of risk assessments. I still do, but like in the beginning, I was basically risk assessing with any company that would allow it. Because I wanted to get comfortable. And then after a while, I just kind of start remembering things, and we use the sfgquotes.com on there, the underwriting cheat sheet. So I was using that for my underwriting, and then also I think, did you ask about getting policies like issued
Yeah.
or
Yeah. I mean,
yeah.
just literally getting to a place where the family's protected and you're getting paid.
Yeah, so I feel like I put a lot of effort into that in the beginning, and made it a point to get good at underwriting. So I think my issue rate has been pretty good, pretty solid since the beginning. Um this week alone, I've had a few declines, actually like 4 from different people. But it was a situation where they didn't disclose information. So it's like you can only do so much with the information you're given. And, I've learned to, try to ask more questions, or when I set the appointment and we get that information in the actual appointment, I make it a point to go through that and clarify and just make sure that I didn't miss anything. That does help because sometimes stuff will come up then in that conversation that didn't come up on the quick, 2 minutes that you're calling them. So I try to dig in a little bit more. And then also when I'm in the appointment, I, explain to them that we'll, go through the options, and it's kind of like trying on a pair of shoes. I'll do my very best to get you, approved with the best coverage. If we, have to go to another company, sometimes that's just part of the process. So I kind of set them up for the expectation of, the carrier makes that decision. And then, I can't guarantee anything, but we have plenty of options. So worst case scenario, we just hop over to the next option.
So you're setting that expectation that, hey, we're gonna try this. I expect it's gonna go our way. If it doesn't, no worries. We'll come back to the table. You're setting that expectation.
Yeah. And I only do that, like my go-to, I have like, people have their go-tos companies. Mine's Mutual of Omaha. I've done enough risk assessments there, but I know now, like if something's going to automatically become graded, so I'll pop over then to AMAM and, do a risk assessment there. And it's usually, you know, so I'll kind of be like, all right, well, let's try Mutual of Omaha first, and then if it comes back graded, we'll go over there. And most often I get people from graded to immediate coverage. That's just an example. So it's like getting good at underwriting is something, once you're kind of like through that learning curve, like it'll kind of happen organically, but putting effort into that, I think, will help people issue policies, get
Yeah,
a better.
and for those of you that are new, if you go to larsonlifegroup.com/help, there's a link right there for I need help finding the right policy for my client. Even the Kelly Bush underwriting video that Julie was talking about, it's in there. It's right there. That's going to walk you through the process. An issued policy, all of our promotions are based on issued business. All of our commission is based on issued business, not submitted applications, issued business. An issued policy requires 2 things. We're brokers. We bring 2 parties to the table to broker a deal, right? We bring the insurance company and we bring the client. That deal is successfully brokered when the insurance company approves the application and the client makes the first payment. Those 2 things coming together makes an issued policy. That's what protects the family, and that's what pays you. Submitting an application will get you on leaderboards, but it doesn't mean a family was protected, and it doesn't mean you're getting paid. And it doesn't mean you're getting promoted, because promotions, everything we do in this business is based on issued business. So you want to get really good matching clients with the best policy so that you can protect families and get paid. And the best thing you can do is kind of what Julie's doing here with the set the expectation. I think this is going to work. If it doesn't, no worries. I've got other options. Julie, you mentioned risk assessments a couple times. Michelle doubled down on risk assessments in the comments. For those people who are brand new, what is a risk assessment?
So each insurance company, most of them will allow you to risk assess with them, meaning you will either call their underwriting line and speak to an underwriter, and you'll give them the stats that you've gotten from the client, as much as and they'll tell you, based on that information, if the person might have a chance of qualifying for whatever the product is. There's a couple companies that don't really do them, and they're instant issue products like Americo and SBLI. But for the most part, you can call the company. American Amicable has a chat on there, where you can put in your ID and then you can talk to an underwriter. It's really helpful, but again, it's not a guarantee.
Love it. Evan, same thing for you. You're finally closing deals, you're submitting apps, you're getting on the leaderboard, but freaking A, you're not getting paid. That doesn't help anybody. How did you cross the bridge in matching people with the right policy? And what was that process like for you?
At first, texting my mentor and sending you their info. And most of the time that worked out. If it didn't, on the fly, going on the Symmetry underwriting cheat sheet and finding a pivot really quick and just telling the client, hey, don't worry. I got a backup option for you. Don't worry. Getting them over there. So at first it was kind of tough, but especially when you first look at that underwriting cheat sheet, it's so overwhelming. There's so many boxes, so many colors, and it's just like, whoa, what am I looking at? But once you can take a look at that and actually know what you're looking at, it's really helpful. And if that's all that the client has is what they told you, then you can find the perfect thing for them. So
Last question, because we're out of time here. I titled this Everything Gets Easier. Look back at Evan Brown a year ago. You're brand new to this thing. You're like drinking from a fire hose. What would you say to those people that are there now, knowing what you know a year into this thing?
You asking me?
Yeah, Evan,
Oh.
you're Evan.
Knowing what I know now, just hunker down and stay consistent. Do pick something and do it and just stick to it. Because I was all over the place. So knowing what I know now, I'd be like, hey dude, seriously, it's that simple. Pick something, stick with it.
Yep. I like that. Julie, same question to you as we're wrapping up. You've been here a year. You were drinking from a fire hose and everything seemed overwhelming. Obviously, it all got easier now and you're good at it. So what would you say to those people that are in that learning curve?
This was plan A with no plan B for me. So, um, I'll just go all in, whether it's part-time or full-time, just make a decision, decide, you'll hear that a lot. Make a decision. We have all the resources that you can possibly have in a company to make you successful, to allow you to be successful. Plug in. Everything you hear people saying, the workroom, the scripts, the calls that we have, plug in and just decide that you want this,
I love that. Hey,
I
I
guess.
appreciate you both. I'm proud of you both. It's been really fun for me to watch you guys develop and mature in your skill sets over this year. It's been really, really fun. Can you guys in the comments just kind of give them some love, sharing their lessons over the course of this last year? That would be awesome. This replay will be available tomorrow on YouTube. We'll get this thing rocking and rolling. Evan, Julie, thanks again. Appreciate you both so much. Have a
Thank
good night,
you.
y'all.
Bye.